Hey y'all, this is Amanda and welcome back to my Texas Zone 8A garden, and today we're going to be digging up all of the pre-sprouted ranunculus, taking a look and seeing which ones survived, and we're going to be prepping and planting them outside in the garden beds. Okay, so a few weeks ago, I went ahead and pre-sprouted my ranunculus corms, and I will link that video down below. Basically, it's a soaking process. Then you put them in soil where they're in complete darkness, and you allow them to begin to sprout up. I typically have mixed results with this. I typically have about 50% rot and 50% do really well. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to dump this whole thing out and pull out the ranunculus that look really good, and then we'll take them outside to get them planted. Okay, so you can definitely just pull them directly out of the tray. I have found that I think dumping them is way more fun. So let me get the camera closer so y'all can see. Okay, so you can see that a few of them have already sprouted and sent up shoots, and those look really nice. Look at that, look at all those roots. So we'll pull those up first, and then we'll dump the tray. And the reason being we're going to do that is because I don't want to risk breaking these that have already like sent up green shoots. These all look really, really nice. Okay, let's dump down, see if we have any other ones. It's usually easy, pretty easy to tell where some are based on where you see white roots. So there's one right there. There's another one, and you can see the sprouts already coming up. I have no doubt that there will definitely be rotted ones in here. So we'll just start going little by little. Looks like that was one that dried up. This one looks a little rotted, nothing's really going. Well, probably a lot of them I'll go ahead and plant, even if they're just dry. This one has a teeny little sprout coming up. There's some. There's another one with sprouts. This one definitely has a bunch of mold, so we're not going to keep that one. This one has a ton of mold. Same here, look at all that mold. I don't know, this has some little sprouts trying to come up. We might try to plant those. This one has roots coming out right there, so we'll plant that. Another one with sprouts. This one has a sprout trying to come up. Yeah, some of these are still trying to push up growth. Okay, that's the first tray. The second tray, we can already see some coming up, so we'll go ahead and pull those. Okay, so I feel like we have 30 to 40. Some of them are real prominent like this and very obvious. Others are a little more subtle like this. And some are even more subtle than that, which is a little bit showing. So anyway, these look really good. So let's go outside. I'm going to show you where we're going to be putting them and how I'm going to prep my bed for them. Okay, so last year I grew my ranunculus in this bed, and I was thinking, oh, I'll do the same. And even though we have a frost, my sunflowers made it, and they're getting really close to blooming. And while I want to get my ranunculus in the ground, I'm not willing to plant these sunflowers yet. So what we're going to do is over here, this is my lisianthus and my stalk. We're going to work with this bed. The marigold are about done. The celosia is going bonkers. So I'm going to go ahead and start by clearing out this bed, and then we're going to top it with compost. Now this over here is scabio, so I'm going to be leaving this. It is kind of a tender perennial. I am going to start by going in and cutting back these plants. I am going to leave the root structures in the earth, and I get a lot of questions why I do that. It's because these are all annuals. They're not going to make it through the winter anyway. And this will basically, leaving the root structures in there, will allow that to just rot in place and nourish the soil. I don't think my marigolds did as well as I would have liked this year, but I tried a lot of new varieties. I'm going to try some different varieties next year, and I hope to have better success. I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was to leave all of this volunteer celosia in place, because it really took off a lot of the sun for the marigolds, and I really think it ended up really crowding the marigolds. And I know you guys are probably like, why aren't you saving the seeds from the celosia? This celosia has been flowering for a while. I can guarantee it has volunteer seeds all over the place from it. The basil. It still probably looks good in the camera, but it's actually all the edges are kissed by the frost and the freeze, so it actually has a lot of brown on the edges. Oh my gosh. It's big. Woo! I got my gardening boots on today because we had so much rain the past few weeks that my garden has had a hard time draining everything. All right, so this soil's in pretty good shape. I had topped it with additional potting soil or garden bed soil in the midsummer when I planted the marigolds. However, I do want to add some nutrients because I just added potting like garden soil, and I do want to go ahead and add something like compost on top. So I'm going to get 1 bag of compost and just put a thin layer across the entire top here. Now I also want to point out that I do have a drip system in this bed as well. Specifically during the winter, I am terrible about remembering to water my plants. Most likely during the winter, I will probably water maybe once a week, maybe once every like 10 days during the winter, and I think that'll work really well for the ranunculus. They don't like to be overly wet or moist. They do have issues. If you do that, they'll rot. And but yeah, we're going to do that. Let's go ahead and get that compost started. Okay, my current favorite compost is called organic compost from Living Earth, and I pick it up at Lowe's. And I will say Living Earth is local to my area, so that works really well for me. I am still going to push some of this under over the scabiosas. Yeah, and just like a light layer of compost will be really helpful for fertilizing the ranunculus. I'll be topping all of my beds with compost throughout the winter, depending on when I'm planting things. Right now I'm planting a lot of hardy annuals that I've grown from seed. Okay, that looks great. So we've got all our corms. Now, when planting these, you want to plant with the sprouts going out, roots going down, and you want to plant them about 1 to 2 inches apart. I'm going to go ahead and space mine out about 6 to 8 inches apart in the space, just to kind of get a general idea of how to lay them out. Mine are all mixed up, so I have no idea which variety is which. That's okay, y'all. I don't sell my flowers, so, and I will say that, I mean, my ranunculus the varieties are all very different from each other. There's nothing that's like real similar, and so it's pretty easy to tell which is what. Okay, and at this point, I'm just basically going to use my hands, tuck them down in the soil. The sprouts might stick up a little bit, but not much. If you're unsure of which is up and which is down, plant it on the side. nature will correct itself and have them come up. Okay. All right, that looks good. Okay, so let's talk about how to protect these. Ranunculus cannot freeze. If they freeze, they turn to mush and they just fall to pieces. So what I did is I ordered a set of like greenhouse hoops, where basically I take like this structure and they have a whole bunch of connectors, and I basically create little half hoops on over the bed, so that come winter, when we get freezes, I can throw some frost cloth on these and they will be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in fast forward so that you guys can see me put it all together. This is a new product for me. I'll link it in Amazon, so I don't have any significant experience with it on how it will hold up. However, the reviews were really, really good. It came with everything you need to make the hoops. It also came with the frost cloth, and it came with the little clips to hold the frost cloth in place, which sounds great to me. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, y'all, that was actually hard. They kept snapping. I guess my bend was too deep, so instead of going directly across, I ended up crisscrossing them, which I actually think will make the whole situation more stable anyway. And so I'm going to go ahead and put the frost cloth on to show you what it looks like, but I'm going to leave the ends open because I don't need the ranunculus to get super warm right now, but we still are getting chilly in our evenings. Let's see if I can get this opened up. And I think this is going to be way more frost cloth than I actually need. So we might trim this. I wish they would just do the frost cloth like in a roll instead of folding it up where you have to unfold the entire thing. And I am going to put a double layer of frost cloth because we will get pretty low at different times. Let me grab some scissors. Okay, so I want to make sure that I have enough of the frost cloth to come all the way down over here and all the way down on this side. And then I'll go ahead and cut across. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close it up to show y'all what it's going to look like. Okay, and then at this point when there's a frost, I would come in here and all of this would be secured with metal stakes down to the ground. For now, what I want to do is I'm actually just going to pull this up and clip it with the same clips and allow the space to just breathe for now. But my frost cloth is set up and ready to go when I need it, instead of me, which is very typical me, instead of me scrambling at the last second, running out here in my nightgown in the freezing weather, trying to put frost cloth on everything, because I have definitely done that a few times. Okay, it's not pretty, but it'll work. I think that'll be really good. Right now, a lot of the air can pass through it, so it's fine. If we end up getting like crazy warm, I might take it off, but I'm not super worried about it at this point. Ranunculus really don't like anything near the 80s. But yeah, and I might be able to overwinter some of my scabiosa too, which would be super cool. Okay, so that was a good adventure. So I think I had pretty good success with pre-sprouting. I would say about 85%. did really well and didn't rot. And we cleaned out the bed and added a layer of compost, planted all of the ranunculus corms about 1 to 2 inches deep, about 8 to 10 inches apart. I would say 6 to 8 inches apart actually. And then I installed the cover, the frost cloth cover for when we have cold temps, because ranunculus does not like to freeze. This is a big risk I feel like I'm taking. If we get crazy temperatures, there's really nothing I can do for the ranunculus. If we get crazy like 0, which we've been known to have every once in a while. They call it a once in a century freeze, which unfortunately we've had the last 2 years. So, but as long as we don't get any crazy freezes, I should be fine. Now, if we do have some ridiculous freezes coming through, there's a couple of different things I can do. I can add additional layers of frost cloth directly on top of the bed, not on the hoops, but on top of the actual bed. I can layer that up. I can also run a small space heater out there, which I hesitate to do because that can be a fire hazard, and ranunculus are not more important than the safety of my family in my house. But yeah, I can add the frost cloth on. Now, the frost cloth does not you can't just put it on and expect nothing to freeze. The frost cloth only gives you about 2 to 3 degrees protection per layer of frost cloth. I have 2 on there, so it's only about 6 degrees of protection. So if I get much lower than like 24, 25, if I get significantly lower than that, I have to put additional layers of frost cloth on, which I'm prepared to do. Like I'll layer it up, you know, especially if it's only for a day or 2. Now, if it's just going to be a touch of a freeze, like it's only going to be freezing for like an hour or 2, the ranunculus are going to be fine, especially because they're in the warm earth and I have watered them, and watering is key to freezes. Plants that are dry are definitely not going to survive a freeze. A plant that has moist roots, it's going to do way better in a freeze than a dry one is. So this will be an experiment. I will try to update you all throughout the winter when, like I said, I'm running around out here in my nightgown trying to predict everything for a freeze, and I'll let y'all know how it goes. And fingers crossed that this fall planted ranunculus does well and gives me some very early spring blooms. All right, y'all, as always, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know when my latest videos are up, and be sure to check me out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, she's Mad Gardener or Decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.